Well, again, everybody, this is Steve coming to you in another Writing Fundamentals video. Well, actually, more like a writing intro, but still, either way, it's kind of the same thing. Anyways, in this one, I'm going to be talking about seasons in your writing and working with the various seasons. Unless you're from the equator, where there's one season that's called summer and it lasts all year long, if you're in any of the two hemispheres, you're going to have the four seasons. They may not be terribly pronounced in your area, or they might be extremely well pronounced. But the seasons are part of weather, and I've mentioned weather in a previous video. But the seasons are something that is going to affect your life, or in the case of your stories, is going to affect your character's life. For like in the farming video I did, I mentioned basically how the four seasons affects farmers and growing foods and different things like that. Outside of the farm, you could have in fantasy, you could have the adventurers, you could have armies. Like armies will typically not march out until after spring planting through the summer. That's kind of the campaign season. And then come fall, they're typically going to start packing things up because winter's coming, and they're going to come back in. They're going to help out with the final harvests and stuff like that. But summer's like the big campaigning season. That's when they go out there and the big dudes with swords start beating on each other and doing these these great big campaigns and conquering and all that kind of stuff. But and the seasons have an effect on things like romance. They have an effect on, depending on your occupation. Some jobs can only be done in the summer or spring or fall or winter. Depending on your story, like if you're in your story you have people that are going skiing, the people in your story probably aren't going skiing in the middle of summer. Now, there are exceptions, because there are places I know of where you can literally go to the beach in the morning, ski in the afternoon, and go to the beach in the evening. I kid you not. There's actually places like that, right? Like Hawaii. Believe it or not, you go up to the higher elevations in Hawaii, and they have snow in the middle of summer. Not always. Sometimes it warms up and snow melts, but Hawaii gets snow in the upper elevations, and a lot of people think, wait, no, that's not possible, because Hawaii is always in the high 70s, low 80s. Yes, at sea level. But as you go up in altitude, the air cools off. It thins out too, but it cools off, and you get snow. Go look it up. It's actually very interesting. There's areas where winter is the majority of the year. Like one of the jokes of Michigan is we have 6 months of winter, 4 months of summer, and 2 months of bad sledding. But yeah, Michigan, or the seasons affect a lot of what you do. If you're going down to the beach, you're not going to go down to the beach obviously in winter. You're not going to go skiing in summer, with some exceptions obviously. Autumn. Autumn brings out a lot of interesting things. Spring brings out a lot of interesting things. The seasons drive a lot of stuff. And you also have to remember, seasons are dependent not just on the latitude, north and south. It also depends on which hemisphere you're in. Because in the north, as you see here, in the northern hemisphere, spring is essentially March through May, and then June kicks off summer. In the southern hemisphere, winter is June, July, August. So it's a complete flip. Basically, if the northern hemisphere is having spring, the southern hemisphere is having fall. If we're having summer, they're having winter. So, because like I say, if you look at this here, it's spring, March, April, May. For them, autumn, March, April, May. For us, for us, it's March, April, May. For them, it's September, October, November. For us, September, October, November. For them, March, April, May. So it's complete opposite of what we have. So you're going to have stuff that depends on hemispheres, and it doesn't matter if you're in, medieval type setting, you're in a fantasy type setting, you're in a sci-fi type setting, like the Pern series. They had regular seasons. They had, their planet had hemispheres, north and south. I don't remember the exact map on who was where, but they had the same phenomenon where spring came in the northern. The spring was coming in the northern hemisphere. Autumn was coming in, when spring came, I should say. Then autumn was coming in the southern hemisphere, and vice versa or same thing with summer and winter. Trying to think here. Yeah, planets, any planet that has a planet, or any solar system, for example, if you're doing sci-fi, any solar system that has a planet within the Goldilocks zone, which is basically the distance from whatever the parent star is, where you have Earth-like conditions as far as temperature and seasons and stuff. If that planet is perfectly up and down, which is very unlikely. Most planets are on a tilt, anywhere from 5 degrees to 35 degrees and stuff like that. You're going to have seasons. Now there are exceptions. There are planets that don't. They don't orbit, or they orbit fast, or they don't orbit fast, or like Mercury, for example. Mercury turns so slowly that one side is always facing the sun, and the other side is always facing space. So one side is just bitter cold. The other side's constantly burning up. And then the only safe place on the planet is going to be along that terminator between sunrise and sunset. And since the planet turns, you're going to have to be migratory to stay in that terminator so you don't burn up. Now, with other planets, say, like if it's out in the Earth area, well, they're going to have 6 months of light, 6 months of darkness if they have a 12-month year. So your seasons are going to be different in that situation. If you're in a fantasy environment, seasons can be controlled with magic. So you might have your textbook seasons that occur under the in the normal 4 blocks of 3 months each over a 12-month year. If the year is 12 months, 360 or 365 days or whatever you want it to be. I think Offworld had 382 days or something like that. So it was a little slow, or a little longer year. And the area where the race was at tended to be a lot warmer, so they had a longer year and a shorter winter. A longer summer and a shorter winter, I should say. So you're not going to have the 4 seasons necessarily, depending on your story. Your 4 seasons are not necessarily going to be delineated perfectly. Basically, those 4 seasons are delineated, ironically enough, on a European model, because it was Europe that originally pioneered those 4 seasons, because Europe saw the 4 seasons more in their structured 3-month blocks, like what's here, more than like if you go down into like North Africa, they have wet season and dry season, and then they have desert areas. You go to other areas and there's basically winter, summer, and a few months of transition. So that's like I say, that's not going to be, those seasons are not going to be lockstep perfect. Like even in my Offworld Chronicles, I had to look at, okay, here's the year, how are the months broken down, how is the seasons going to work here where they're located at. Can I run with the 3 month or 4 blocks of 3 months each, or do I have to come up with something else? No, I can't. It's because the months operate this way, so it's like 4 months of this, 3 months of that. They had a leap day every other year because their year was like 382.5 days. So every other year was a leap year. And seasons were a little bit different. Winters were kind of funny because winter was, it was short, But when it showed up, and it showed up big. That's one of the reasons why it was so good that Simon and his team managed to winter over with the dragons of Kestrel, because dragon weirs tend to be very, very warm, which sucks in the summer for humans, but the winter is great because places kept really warm. So they had to winter over there because the winters were just nasty. That's one of the reasons why they had wintering cabins on the course, because the winters were so nasty. And then the second time around, they wintered with the professor in Terrafall, which Terrafall had a long winter, but their winter was long because they were so far up. So, and like I was saying with Hawaii, you get up there in those upper elevations, and winter is pretty much year round. And it's because you're in the upper elevations where the air is naturally cool. And like in Terrafall, they had a very short growing season of like 3 months. And basically when spring came, it was, we're in winter, spring, summer. Very little spring. Like once winter broke, it transitioned really quickly from winter to summer. And then you had 3 months to grow your crops. And then over harvest moss, which was about a 1 month period, it went from summer to winter really bloody quick. So your fall was probably like 30 days, and it showed up fast. And so again, that's one of those things that you're not necessarily going to be writing about lockstep seasons. If you can't keep the seasons straight, where they're an odd length or they have an odd behavior, like it goes from winter to Indian summer to winter to Indian summer and then full winter or something like that, fine, stick with the lockstep seasons. That's fine too. But I'm saying that normal nature, depending on the geographic location, what the topography is, what the latitude is, and stuff like that, is going to affect your seasons. Also, what hemisphere you're in. So you could have, just as a story example, I'll throw something out here. You could have somebody that, say they're a Viking, or they're a paladin, and they're in one of the countries north of the equator of this planet, and they want to go south to to the continent of the Demon King. And it's like early summer, starting to get a little warm. He and his team, he's got an elf and a dwarf and some other people with him. They all get on a ship and they sail south. And they sail up to the continent of the Demon King, and wait a second, this is June 1st, you guys got snow. What the heck? It's because they're in the southern hemisphere. Where it's high summer in the northern hemisphere, it's high winter in the southern hemisphere. It's like I showed here, June, July, August. The guys on the southern hemisphere are going to have winter. So if they really wanted to take on like the Demon King and his forces, and they wanted to take it on in warm weather, they better be leaving, sometime in late November, early December, because then they're going to be coming into summer in the other hemisphere on that other continent. Think if there's anything else. Well, anyways, that being said, you be creative. Use this as a framework to get started. Be creative. Shake things up a little bit. And like I say, this goes for fantasy and it goes for sci-fi. Because sci-fi, you're going to have planets, you're going to have hemispheres, you're going to have weather. Fantasy is definitely going to have it. Historical fiction is going to have it. I mean, look at the Battle of the Bulge. They fought that during a bloody blizzard in World War II. So, there's just a lot of different things that go into all of this that you're going to have to consider when you're writing your book, and seasons are involved. And like I've said with other things, it does not have to be a thing that's up front, but it does have to be something in your super world that you have figured out ahead of time and how it's going to work and everything like that, because you will have parts of that story where like your characters, one of your characters, say it's like one of the school, like it's a school drama, and you got a couple of kids that are in their freshman or sophomore year, and they're they're walking down the street holding hands, talking about things, and it's spring. See where I'm talking about? Now you've got something that the seasons are affecting you. It could be raining, which goes back to the weather thing. The weather's affecting them. Why is it raining? Well, because it's summer and it's a thunderstorm and it's blown in from such and such a location. So, anyways, I think that's about all I need to cover on this one. Yay, I actually have a short one finally. After all my long ones, I finally have a short one. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. And as usual, let me know if you have any questions, comments, or concerns on anything I've presented. I'm open to your feedback. I have no problem, good or bad, of any feedback you have or questions, etc. like that. So anyways, I'll see you guys next time.